Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Kate and Shannon giving a workshop for Zoom to Miracles group. So today we will be doing a workshop on the topic how to undo worry regarding money and survival. How to undo worry about money and survival. This is probably the biggest fear, the biggest egoic fear that most of us have or have had. And so Shannon and I were during the week getting some guidance around and answering, finding out what might be the biggest issue for everyone that's in the group. And someone wrote to us and they asked this question. They asked me if I could talk on it or do a one-on-one with them. And Shannon had already messaged me and said she'd had some guidance to talk to this particular concern. This is an ego belief, but it can really hijack our mind, and it can take quite a long period of time sometimes to really undo it. The ego has many tentacles. It's like an octopus with many tentacles into our mind about this kind of fear. So we have been given some particular lessons and paragraphs from lessons to talk to this concern, and then some meditations and answers for you to take away. So how these workshops work is that we'll be doing it for the whole week. So we focus on a theme. We start off with this workshop, and then you, if you like, you can focus on this theme for the week. We assume that you've already read the text, gone through the lessons, and have some familiarity with the rest of the pamphlets and things that have come through, Helen, from Jesus. So this is probably not for new students, but if you're listening to this recording and you feel that you want to do this, that's fine. But it's really for students that are very familiar with the workbook and the themes of the text. The reason why is that when you start out, you really should do the lessons. You should really do the lessons right the way through and read the text on your own. That's technically how it should, because you are, and then you can do it with groups or with others, but you really should do them on your own and really focus in, because it's between you listening to Jesus and you repeating and doing the lessons as he tells us what to do. And then the groups and other things can really help, but the Holy Spirit is the therapist, is the main teacher. Other teachers can help, but really your dedication is to getting in touch with the right mind, and we all have it. We have that access to Jesus and the Holy Spirit, and we can hear, because Jesus says it in the Course. So what he says is the truth. So I was guided to read something out to start this workshop, even though it kind of isn't exactly what we're on the theme, but this is what I was guided to share today, just to start off. It's in the introduction to the workbook, and it says, in doing the exercises, it will make the goal of the course possible. The goal is peace of mind. An untrained mind can accomplish nothing. It is the purpose of this workbook to train your mind to think along the lines the text sets forth. So we're training our mind. We are students. This is our course that we're taking, just like if you were going to university or something else where you were taking a course. This is what we're doing. So we have to keep having these reminders that we are on a mind training course. The workbook is divided into two main sections. The first dealing with the undoing of the way you see now, and the second with the acquisition of true perception. So we're undoing the way we see now. We are undoing the way we see, which is the way we perceive. We're undoing the ego part of our mind that tells us about everything we're seeing. And the second with the acquisition of true perception. True perception is just seeing God in everything, holiness in everything. We see the world, we're still going to see what we call the world, the trees, the bodies, the houses. But true perception is just going to see them as love. The mind is being healed of its misperceptions. So this is why we want to do the lessons. We want to do them really well. And he's brought this message through for me to give you guys and anyone that's listening. The purpose of the workbook is to train your mind in a systematic way to a different perception of everyone and everything in the world. So that's what the purpose of the workbook is, to train your mind in a systematic way. So when you go through the workbook, you're training your mind to a different perception of everyone and everything. That's the purpose of the workbook and the Course in Miracles. And so that training ourselves and seeing with a different perception brings the peace of God, the goal of the Course. So if we are in fear, if we have got concern and worry about survival and money, we need to take some of these lessons from the Course and apply them. We have to do what he says to do. So he says with the lessons, we don't need to understand them. We might even resist them. We might think that didn't work or that's not working. But he says, don't worry about any of that. Just use them. Do them and use them. And when he says use them, he means any time throughout the day when you're finding yourself upset. Say something, use them, repeat them, apply them. That's how we mind train ourselves. So he's asking us not to concern ourselves with how, we might be saying, I'm not experiencing any peace. I've been doing this for years and I've not got anywhere. He's saying, don't worry, just keep doing it. So the things that we're going to be doing for this week, if you want to, you don't have to do it as Shannon and I are presenting it, but this is what's been coming through us to present, is that you can focus for a week on a particular theme. So last week was giving and receiving a one, to really practice that every day and notice when I give the Christ blessing, oh, wow, I just feel so good. I feel so lifted up. All the fear left me. So what you're doing is you're proving to yourself that giving does bring it to me. giving away God's love, extending God's love, giving the blessing, giving things to my brother, brings it to me, heals my mind. So this is about applying certain aspects of these lessons to really kind of zoom in and focus on them, because during my journey with these lessons and the course for that really dedicated period of time, I was asked to focus on one particular thing, one particular theme for a while. I'd already been through the lessons. I'd done them a few times. And then it was like, let's focus on this for a while. And so each day I would focus on it. So I think this is why this might be a helpful thing in these workshops. So we've done 3 workshops, and if you've been able to do it, you should have had your focus for that week on what was given to do. I am posting into Zoom to Miracles more to keep everyone remembering this is the theme, this is what we're doing, there's another lesson, or, keep your focus here and validate that it works. So Jesus is saying you will be able to validate that you have the peace of God by doing this mind training. So some really good things, once again, is to tell yourself that Jesus brought this whole course through for a reason, and to not try to change it, not try to say, I don't like this lesson, I'm skipping it, to do it exactly as the teacher guides us to do it. And he wants you to do it with him. So if you haven't done the lessons by yourself on a daily basis, read it in the morning, applied it throughout the day, I would encourage you to do that. So this is the mind training, and even if you don't get it, or you're repeating all these things throughout the day, which is how I was. I repeated things all day long and it sounded wooden. It didn't sound like I was getting anywhere. No one does. And then all of a sudden, there's just a moment where that thing you say, it's like, oh, I got something out of that. Oh, I really felt something shifted. And that's what he's doing. He's doing little shifts for us. So that's really to be humble, to really come with true humility and say, I don't know, you do. I don't know, but you do. I don't know how to heal my mind, but you do. So please, I surrender, you teach me. Okay, here's your course. All right, you brought this course in. It feels like for me, this is my course. So I'm going to do it. All right, so that's the end of that little bit about the lessons, which is really lovely to hear, right? It's really nice to hear that. So, so let us talk about how to undo worry regarding money and survival. And the answer is simply trust. Trust. That's how we undo it. We have to trust. Now, there's a whole section in the back of the course about development of trust, right? So he knows that trust is going to take us a while, or it can be very short. You can dedicate yourself fully to trust and really trusting and focusing. So we're going to be focusing for the next week on developing a deeper trust through a couple of different aspects of lessons. Okay, so we're going to say, okay, we'll do the workshop, we'll listen to, we'll read, we'll do some meditations, but I'd ask you to, if you feel up to it and you want to do this, commit yourself to every day during the week, focusing on developing a deeper trust. So, Shannon, would you like to share anything or say anything just as we start this topic?
Yes. So the developing trust can be very quick if, so if we listen to him and we follow whatever it is he says, and that builds more trust. And then we listen, we remember to ask, we listen, we do what he says, it builds more trust. And so that continues and is exponential. And so it's just making that decision that that's what I'm going to do. And then you do it. And it's okay if you forget once in a while, but then just laugh and then just, oh, okay, that's right. Here, I'm going to come back to you. What would you have me do? And it's kind of like a building block. It increases every single time, like doubles the amount of trust you have. And so it's really about making that decision and then doing it and doing it and doing it. And like the more you listen, like, I mean, he knows everything. Like he really does. Like it's not like, so like my husband lost a tool and I was like, where is it? And he showed me a box in the basement. I went down and got it, and that's there it was. And so it's like he knows, he has the whole picture. He can make our life so easy, and he can take us into that peace where we're just happy all the time. And so it's like, all right, yeah, that is what I want. I know for myself, my practice was when I kind of let the ego, I believe what the ego was saying for a little bit. And then I kind of like started to not feel peaceful. I would lay down in my bed and I would just say, I forgot. I want to be like you, Jesus. Yes, I want to be like you. That's what I want. And I know that you can show me how, because there's that quote in the Course where he says, if you want to be like me, I can help you, knowing we are alike. If you want to be different, I'll wait until you change your mind. And so it's not like we really even have a choice. He's just obviously, I'll wait till you change your mind. Like, so we can choose now, right now, in this moment, and every moment moving forward. And that trust builds so quick. It can build so quickly. I mean, that was my experience. I don't know, Kate, was that how it was for you too?
Um, probably a bit slower than that. I found, like, when I made that commitment in January 2013 that I was going to devote myself to the Course in Miracles teachings. That would be my life's purpose for 2 years and see what happened. I was kind of like, let's see what happens if I do something like this. I didn't have a connection to Jesus and the Holy Spirit at that time. Although, having said that, I was occasionally like writing, Holy Spirit, could you give me some answers about, blah, blah, blah. And I would really get something. It would be really nice because it would be like, just be loving to them, just be kind to them. They're calling for love. Everyone wants love. So there'd be like those kind of answers would be coming through. That there's two kind of, when the Course talks about guidance, or students of the Course talk about guidance, a lot of them will talk about, I was guided to, leave the house or go and see this person, or, call them up and say, how are you, and check in on them, or, just like us being guided to what to present this week. That's one type of guidance. But the other type of guidance, which I focused on for that 2 years, was healing my mind, which I think that's what Shannon's talking about. So a lot of people love to talk about this other guidance. I woke up in the morning and I was guided to go out in the garden. I was guided to, look at the flowers, and that's all very nice. But the main part of guidance is forgiveness. Guide me, heal my mind. So it took me probably a full year to really get in touch with the Holy Spirit and hear him asking, because like Shannon said, she laid down on the bed and said, I want to be like you. It doesn't matter what words you use, because, I've shared my forgiveness practice And Shannon might say different words, but I generally laid or sat on my bed too. And I did forgiveness because it was like a quiet space where I knew I could just ask. So it doesn't matter what words or what you use. It's like what they call, it's the calling of your heart. And what it's really saying is, I want another perception. I want to see this differently. So when Shannon's saying, you know, help me, I want to be like you. In other words, I want to see like you. I want to think like you. I want your mind. So that's what we're really saying. We're saying, help me see this as you see it. And a lot of, like Ken Wapnick, he would say, you know, ask Jesus or the Holy Spirit to look at it with you. Well, when you do that, you're then in their perception. So, and even if you, like I don't even know where I got my forgiveness practice, but it just seemed to work, so I used it. And I would just literally sit on the bed if I was upset, and I would say, I release all this. I feel guilty that I said this. I'm angry that, you know, whatever it was about. And I would feel myself giving it all to the Holy Spirit. So I let it go. And then say, above all else, I want to see this differently. So I'm calling for his perception. I'm calling, show me how you would look at it. So sometimes we don't even need to say the words, but whatever words you use and whatever works for you, stick with it. Now, also, you can just read the lesson for the day, because the lesson of the day is going to give you a different perception. So it doesn't matter what you do or how you do it. The main thing is you shift your perception from fear, anger, the belief in guilt and separation, to another perception, right-minded thoughts. And that's really what forgiveness is. Mind training yourself to think along the lines of the Course, to see that I am guiltless, everyone's guiltless. There is no world because there's no bodies. God didn't make bodies. He didn't make a world. We're still in God, in God's love. And what we seem to be in is an appearance. It calls it an appearance, like a mirage is an appearance, but it's not real. So we don't have to deny the body. We just have to focus on that we're spirit. So do what we need to do for the body, but you'll get less and less obsessed about what the body needs or whatever, as you start to come in and focus on yourself as spirit. So sometimes the answer to when I was asking for correction, which is the atonement, right? Sometimes he would bring in to my mind that I am spirit, and to remember that for the day. And sometimes I would just get one word and he would say, repeat this throughout the day. And it would completely change my mind. And then he'd never use that word again. If I said to him, can you give me a word today? He'd give me, and it would be different. Now we can all hear, we can all get this. Everyone has access to it. Like Shannon said, he's there, the Holy Spirit, the right mind is there for us. And Shannon and I and others here that are listening and following, and even saying following, it's like, really it's about correction, about our perception. So when I read that, the parts of the introduction to the workbook, right, nothing he said there was about listen and I'll tell you what to say to someone else. That comes later, really. That comes later. For those 2 years, I never really focused on really what I was saying to anyone. He was always guiding me how to perceive my brother. And so the reason why was we're usually in so much agony and fear. I mean, the fear is unbelievable at times. There's no two ways. It can be I'm just talking from my own experience. There was so much judgment, so much guilt, so much fear about worry for survival and money. So So what happens is as we go through the lessons, mainly the lessons of the course, because the text is just really telling you about, you know, about this being a dream, that you're dreaming, the mind's dreaming, and it's giving you the metaphysics. And then what the lessons are doing is helping us choose holiness instead of fear, coming to see there is no guilt. That's really what it's about. And why? Because I'm not a body. And how can a body be guilty, right? A body is just, an appearance. It's a bit of skin and hair and eyeballs, right? And as I always say, you can't find guilt in a fingernail, right? It's got to be our mind projecting onto something that's guilty. It's a thought that says something's guilty. It has to start from a thought. An ego thought causes everything. It's the cause, but it's a cause that can be undone. So I've spoken for a while about just a very simple answer. that that how was it for me? So it took me about a year to really feel this inner guide helping me. Was constantly saying, I want to connect with the Holy Spirit. I want to connect with the Holy Spirit. And, I did get that book by, I can't remember his name. I've shared about it before, where he's got a book and you can write answers. It's about hearing the Holy Spirit, so you can write some answers to it. And what that book really shows you is you're already hearing the Holy Spirit. You're just not you're just not validating that you are. We're all hearing the Holy Spirit. And the validation of is, when I heard this particular thing, when I was upset and I heard this, or I saw someone calling for love rather than being angry with them, that's the Holy Spirit. They're the right-minded thoughts. So then in the second year of my journey, I really came to connect with Jesus. And that's when that really powerful love came through. And I had some really beautiful healings of my mind through joining with his mind. So I think what happens, we all do it differently. Some people just stick with the Holy Spirit, but that doesn't matter, because the Holy Spirit is the love. It's the same as Jesus, right? These are symbols, but what happens for us is that's why we've got the Holy Spirit and Jesus as those symbols for us, is that sometimes, like for me, I felt unworthy to join with Jesus, right? And so I had to realize that I didn't have to make myself worthy. And then I joined with him. So everybody does this journey differently. So if you're feeling, I just work with the Holy Spirit, I haven't really experienced anything with Jesus, you will still be all right. The Holy Spirit is the representation of the love of God, the wisdom, and is the right-minded thought system in your mind. So some people just start out with Jesus and they never really talk about the Holy Spirit. So don't do any comparisons. Just know that where you're at is where you're at. You're developing the trust. So I had to develop the trust in the Holy Spirit, because I thought that's kind of an easy option to start with. And then I moved over to saying, Jesus, I really want to know you. And I found for me, Jesus brought that love, that unconditional love in. And when I joined with him in mind, I felt my mind merged with his and experienced that unconditional, infinite love. And that was when I did that for the first time, it was just life-changing. It was just so beautiful. So I did need to develop the trust, and that's how we do it, right? We develop that trust, and we all do it differently. So Shannon and I might look like we did different things at different times, but it doesn't matter. the fact is that we both had a really strong dedication to listening, to being healed, to be open. And that's really what the message is, isn't it, Shannon? That you can be healed. And in fact, we could heal our whole mind in an instant if we really wanted to, but generally that doesn't happen. So sometimes it can seem that someone's mind is healed quite quickly, and other times it seems like it's healed. It says most have a slow evolving journey, but it doesn't have to be. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. Would you like to say anything on that, Shannon?
Yeah, I agree with you, Kate. I mean, everyone's journey is going to look a little different. So it's not about that. It's about just making that commitment, like actually saying, yes, this is it. I'm in 100%. You know, I'm willing and I'm ready, because you are ready and you are willing. So just kind of saying, well, that's it. I'm not going to entertain the ego anymore. I'm going to trust in the guidance of the Holy Spirit, Jesus. It doesn't even matter what you call it. For me, it was Jesus. Like I had a moment of being pulled into a place where he was in front of me and I was able to talk to him and discuss things with him, and it was beautiful. And so I felt very close to him, and I was able to, hear his guidance on everything. And he showed me what I think is not true. And that's really it. I mean, we're just believing a little untrue idea about who we are. And so, yeah, it's about letting him show us that we are innocent and pure, and we're the Holy Son of God, and there's nothing that our holiness cannot do. And he can show us that. And I'll tell you, I mean, for me, it was very quick. As soon as I had that experience, I was able to access him and find out, like, understand, like, what really I was seeing, how I was perceiving incorrectly. And he corrected it for me. So, yeah, I mean, it's really that trusting and then allowing that trust to build, not losing sight of it.
And I like what you said before, Shannon, about how when you trust, it's like compounding. I can't remember the way you were saying, but it really develops a deeper trust. So it doesn't go along a straight line. Your trusting really goes up. So as you trust, so this week we're going to be focusing on the atonement, not sort of saying to where would you have me go and what would you have me say, but how would you want me to perceive this situation, right? So let's put the focus for this particular week on the correction of our perception. Okay, so it'll be trusting to turn to your inner guide for correction. So I'm just going to read the first paragraph of lesson 47 to really hear what Jesus says about trusting. So God is the strength in which I trust. So the Holy Spirit is God's voice in our mind, right? It is the part of our mind that is connected to the inner wisdom that is going to help us awaken. So we need to get in touch with this inner wisdom. And that's when we start trusting it more and more. So if you are trusting in your own strength, you have every reason to be apprehensive, anxious, and fearful. So for anyone that's concerned about money, survival, body stuff, this is the blanket teaching for us What can you predict or control? What is there in you that can be counted on? So that's the real key. What is there in you that can be counted on? So if you're accessing the ego thoughts to plan the future out, cannot trust it, because what happens is when we ask the ego, you know, I'm unsure about my future money or something here or there, the ego is always going to come up with a plan, but it also will say that plan is going to fail. If you're very clear with watching the ego, you'll see it. And so then you'll come up with plan B. And then and then the ego says, but that won't work. And then it'll go to plan C and plan D and plan E. But all of them, it will offer you these plans, but it will always have the thought that won't work. And so what happens is that it brings in tremendous fear, because you're accessing or thinking with the ego, and the ego saying it's going to be awful. The ego always looks into the future and sees disaster. It sees chaos. And then it also comes up with the answers, but says the answers won't work. So you can validate this for yourself by thinking about anything that you've just thought of. So maybe we might get people to write this down at the moment in your journal, right? And he kind of goes through this in one of the lessons about all the things that you think might happen in a situation. But what I want you to really notice is you just write down anything you're concerned about in the future. And then write down the answers that the ego has given you. And then really try to get in touch with how, when the ego has come in with its own solution to its perceived problems, how there's always a little thought behind it that says this won't work out, right? We have to see this, we have to notice it, because otherwise we're just going to keep going to the ego and seeking and not finding, and just living in fear of the future. When you finish writing, if you could look at the screen, and I can know then that you've finished. So don't keep writing. There's plenty of time to write. Don't feel you have to rush. It's really important to put some attention to this kind of thing, right? Because the only way you're going to choose against the egos, remember Jesus says the ego has a whole seeming logical plan for your salvation. In other words, how everything's going to go. But he says that it's illogical, and that the ego also says it won't work. So maybe, this can be these are kind of things that Holy Spirit brought in for me on my journey, because I would bring these kind of things to him and say, look, I'm thinking of leaving my job. Should I get another job, or should I downsize my house? I have don't have such a big mortgage, or should I sell up and go and live with my mum? And, you know, I was asking the ego, right? And the ego's, sorry, did I say I was asking the Holy Spirit? Anyway, I would have been asking the ego, right? And you'll know when you're asking the ego because the answers will always kind of be, it'll bring all these solutions into your mind, but there'll always be a feeling of, you'll be feeling anxious. Why? Because the thoughts say, yeah, it'd be great to go and live with your mum. Yeah, but what about, gosh, she watches TV and the TV's really loud and she has it on all day and that's going to be hard to live with. I want to give you all these examples of this is how we live in the ego's offering solutions and that it won't work. So then it says, maybe sell your house, get a smaller one, get a smaller mortgage. Yeah, but then, you won't have much room and, you know the neighbours now. So, what if you get bad neighbours? So all that is asking the ego, getting the ego's answer, and the ego says nothing will work. So you stay in a state of anxiety and fear, right? So this is the reason why I want to expand on this and tell you because, we all have these same thoughts, right? So we have to trust. So I'll finish reading this section, and then I'll expand on it a little bit too. What would give you the ability to be aware of all the facets of any problem and to resolve them in such a way that only good can come of it, right? So the ego always comes up with answers and then there's always some catch at the end, like, it'd be so good, but something terrible will happen. And so Jesus is saying, we have just got no idea in each step of our lives what would be the best, what good could come of it. What is there in you that gives you the recognition of the right solution and the guarantee that it will be accomplished? So what if you had an aspect of your mind that knew everything, like Shannon said? It knows everything. The Holy Spirit, Jesus, they know everything. They know where you should be and what you should do and which job you should go to. And one of the things that I did realise as part of working with the Holy Spirit and listening to the Holy Spirit was that sometimes it would say, like I'd get an employment agent calling me and say, hey, there's this job that's come up. Are you interested? And I would always check in with the Holy Spirit. And sometimes it'd be yes. But what I came to see was that these jobs would maybe just give me exactly the money I needed at that particular time for what I needed for rent or mortgage or different things. But there was also some lessons in there. So I've talked about the job that I was guided to do where there was an angry boss. And I didn't know why I was there. And then all of a sudden I had some fear come up. And straight away I just sat quietly and said, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. And I've talked about how he showed me that the guy was just like an opera singer. And just go, yeah, it was really good, have no fear, right? So it takes away the fear. And then before long, I was guided out of that job. So when we realise that it's not that we're going to a relationship or going, some people go to communities and they think, oh, I'm just going to be there just singing and dancing with all my friends. No, any part of the ego that's in your mind is going to be there and it's going to raise its head and you're just going to have your lessons. It doesn't matter. You might be called to go and live with your mum or your dad and you'll have the same lessons. You'll get the lessons wherever you go. But the most important thing is a connection to the Holy Spirit. So you go, oh, I'm being triggered here. Oh, I feel this or I think this and I've got these thoughts and initially it was very kind of vague how I would be like, I just feel guilty. But I started to, as I worked with doing this forgiveness and trusting in the Holy Spirit to help me, I started to, after a while, the correction got more specific, and I could start to really see the egoic thoughts much more clearly. So this is so these are the answers. It's just the reason why I wanted to talk about that. When I was guided into that job, it gave me the money, but the Holy Spirit knew where I needed to be, because I'd said, I want my mind healed, and I don't know what's left in my mind to be healed, right? Because I was getting to quite a purified mind, and I said, you know what is left in my other subconscious and conscious mind. I don't, because the unconscious mind comes up when we're triggered, right? And so if you think that you're going to go to a job where in your mind training and you're guided to a job, it's a mistake if you think, oh, I'm guided to do this or feel to do that, and it's just going to be skipping around laughing with the people there. It might be for a short time, but what it is if you've really asked for the healing of your mind, you're there to notice what is coming up for you. When you're triggered, it's a good thing, because you can do your forgiveness on it and it's gone. It's healed. So you're looking for triggers. You're walking around saying, Holy Spirit, be in my mind today. Jesus, be with me, and bring on the triggers. Because if we can see that we want to know what's in our mind that's unhealed, let it raise up into our conscious mind so we can have the Holy Spirit laugh it away, basically, tell us that it has no power. And he uses the metaphysics. The metaphysics will come in. And as I said, sometimes you might see, as you ask, help me see this differently. I want your view. I want to see it as you see it. You might even see, a picture of a teacher saying something, or you might see some words in your mind. What comes in, you can't know. At that stage, when you're asking for another perception, you, at that moment, can't see how the answer is going to come in. And that's why we have to trust. That's the trusting. And so I'll share about another particular instance to do with food and money. I've already shared about this in other videos, but I might get Shannon to share about something where you had fear of money and survival, Shannon, and what Jesus brought in for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, for me, it was always survival of other people that I love. So that was my trigger. So you'll notice, and you probably already have, that like certain things will keep coming up, and it's like the ego can get you with it, right? And so it's going to keep trying to get you with it. And for me, it was, I didn't want to lose anyone I love. And my son was in active addiction. And I mean, talk about fear and worry. I didn't know where he was. I had no idea what was going on. Fearful, I mean, just making up stories in my head about like how he's like, dead in a gutter somewhere, or like wrapped around a tree, or, whatever. And I had to go to Jesus with that. And what he did, and it took me a while, but he really showed me that worry and fear, like, he's like, you don't know. Like, do you know that your son's wrapped in a gutter somewhere, or wrapped around a tree, or whatever? Like, you're not in peace right now because you're afraid that something is going wrong. But actually, do you even know that? And I didn't. It was all this fearful projection into the future about, oh, this might happen, or this might be the truth now, or whatever. So that's where he started. He just kept bringing me back into this moment. And everything's always perfect in this moment. There's never anything that isn't in perfect order. And when we're in this moment, we can actually access that vertical. And so he just kept bringing me back to that. But then, there was a lot more learning after that. I mean, I ended up having to go the whole way to the bottom. And actually, he showed me standing at my son's funeral in my mind. And I was able to somehow come to a peaceful place with that. And took me a while for that one. That was like I would have to say, like, my biggest one, that, was difficult, very difficult. And, my son is like, I mean, everything is wonderful in his life now, and I feel like that was partially because I was able to forgive. Like, he's no longer addicted to anything. He has a wonderful job. He has wonderful friends. He like lives close by, and I mean, he's had his own spiritual path and growth, and it's been beautiful to witness. So, I didn't know, and I still don't know. And the thing is, like, even like knowing the course the way I do, like, I still stay in an I don't know place because I don't, like, he knows. And if I think I know something, I'm blocking him from coming in and working through me. And so it's like, that's one of the things that, like, with the worry and the fear that we have to come to, is that, like, actually, like, none of what I'm worried and fearful about is actually even happening right now. Like, if we just stop and just be here, this moment right now, we're sitting here smiling at each other on a Zoom call, right? Talking about God. Like, what's better than that? And so, there's nothing in this moment. So it's like we've got to just keep coming back in and just letting him bring us here, because this is where our peace is in this moment. Anyway, that's all I have to share, Kate.
Yeah, I'd like to just kind of piggyback onto that. Thanks, Shannon. I'd like to kind of just expand on that too, that that is the answer that he always brings in. Eventually we see, he gets us to see that we're in the eternal now. We're always here now. And that's the only time you can access him, whether it be Holy Spirit, Jesus, right-minded thoughts, whatever you want to call it. It's the only time. So right now, here, now, is always access to the Holy Spirit's answers, right? So when the ego projects out, and it projects this, like, I too had a child with addiction. So it's funny, Shannon and I've had very similar pathways. And what it is that you're always projecting doom and gloom. Well, the ego's going out projecting, they're going to die of an overdose or whatever. And yet, I did find my daughter overdosed a few times, and it was funny because, I was always extreme fear about it. And then when it happened, I was very calm. And because I was using the Holy Spirit, and I just kind of did a few things with her and got her up and helped her. And it was like seeing that even if what the ego's going to project, even if that did seem to be part of your script, right? You are going to have the Holy Spirit in your mind at that particular time. So I too was guided from, asking him, help me see this whole, my daughter and the drug addiction and everything differently. he took me through the death of my daughter. He got me to, same thing, be at her funeral. And as I stood at the visualization of her funeral, he just showed me there is no death. There's no body. Your daughter's not a body. And it's not like just the words, it was a true experience of truth coming through my mind. And he said, you know, God didn't make bodies. What you're seeing is not real. It's not who we are. This is a dream. It's a projection in your mind. And if you can be at peace with the projection, where the projection seemingly seems like a daughter dies and is in, you know, having a funeral, if you can stay in that inner peace, you will be completely amazing with your daughter now, because there'll be no fear. And that really healed it. And he got me to look at her going to jail and being at peace. He got me to look at her going crazy and being in the psych ward, because they were all the ego's fears, right? We have to, rather than have all these thoughts and turn away from them, we have to face them. They're here. All these ego thoughts, all these fear thoughts, we have to face them with the Holy Spirit and Jesus. You can't run away from them, because they're like the Terminator. They just come back. You can distract yourself. You can do whatever you like. We've talked about all these distractions before. But as soon as, even if you're distracting yourself with gaming or watching loads of streaming and videos, or even work, you can distract yourself with work. There'll be a moment of, what about if she dies? And you know, fear, because all you need to do is face everything. So what about if she dies? What about if I die? What about this? What about all these ego things? And that's what he got me to do. He said, I want you to turn and face everything in your mind, all the beliefs, all the thoughts, face them with me. And as I looked at them, he just dissolved them. He showed me the truth, and everything just kind of fell away. So this is why we can't know what the answer is. How would we know how any problem's meant to work out? How are we meant to know where we're meant to be or what we're meant to do? But he knows. He does know, and he will give you the answer for everything. Like, we've got some decisions to make about our house at the moment, and he's just guiding me. Let Kevin make them. And Kevin's making them. And he's just saying, just trust. He's getting the guidance. He's getting what to do. And so Kevin seems to be really calm and peaceful, because he's getting the answers about what to do. And I'm just sitting here not knowing why or what, or what's meant to be done to the house, or whatever, however it is, because I don't have any attachment to whatever happens to anything. But you just go along in the script, trusting with the Holy Spirit and Jesus. But the answer to all of these problems is healed perception, not changing anything on the outside. It's always, you have to change your perception about it. If there's any guidance about, right, you need to go out and tell that child, stop taking drugs or you'll die, that's the ego. And it doesn't work, because I've tried it. So what happens is you have to fail. You have to fail completely to turn to the course's way. So as we're doing this and talking about this, you might be thinking, oh no, I really need to tell my child, they need to get off drugs, or they need to, eat more if they've got bulimia or anorexia, and, or the child's gaming too much, oh, you're going to get fat, and, this is going to happen if you're sitting gaming all day. Whatever it is about anyone that you feel that they should change, you need healed perception. You need him to come in and heal your perception of what you're seeing. Because if you think something is real and needs to change, you think your real body, that thought is making you believe you're a body by whatever you see outside of yourself, and how you think about it is what you think about yourself. So we have to be really careful. That's why he heals our perception. And what it's really coming to do, and this is really sometimes very hard for people when they have a view of their parents and their children, but they're not our parents and not our children. They're the Holy Spirit. They're no different to anyone else, but you can still play in the dream the bit of the role of it. You will, if you're bringing up children, you do bring them up and do what you need to do. But when they're grown up, you really have to change your perception and come from that place that this is not about having a good life here. This is about waking up to your true holy self. And and then you let them go. We all are being reincarnated in the dream to have our lessons. This has got nothing to do with succeeding. You can't succeed in this world because you're with the ego. The ego is there. But as Shannon said, it doesn't have to take a long time to heal your mind. If you really come to it with a really strong dedication, you can heal it quite quickly. Now people have said to me, oh, you did it within 2 or 3 years. That's so fast. But I didn't have any idea around how long it was, because I really wasn't around many Course in Miracles people at that time. And I wasn't in that mode where I was comparing or checking in. The thing is that when you really want the peace of God, you just go for it. You don't have to worry about what anyone else's does. It's you calling for the hearts from your heart. So if you're sick and tired of anxiety and depression and worry, really make that strong devotion to doing this work, to having your mind healed, to accepting the Course 100%. And like Shannon said, I just used to live in the I don't know mind. And sometimes I would walk around throughout the day and just repeat, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, to really get out of this idea that I knew something. And in that way, it'd be like Holy Spirit does, Holy Spirit does, I don't know, Holy Spirit does. And I would feel so much relaxation from that. I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, he does. And you can do that as a little practice too. So I'm feeling
Kate,
yeah.
I just wanted to share one other thing too, is that like when he's coming in and healing your mind, like coming in and showing you, like for me anyway, it was really washing away all needs that I thought I had. And so like the thing that caused the most pain and suffering for me is that I thought I needed my son to live. And that thought caused so much suffering for me. That was what it was. And so like the question that he would ask me a lot is, what do you want? And it would really show me, as I like dug into it, I would really look at the situation. What is it I want from this situation? And it would reveal like that need underneath of everything. And as I looked at that with him, that's when it would shine away, because, I was willing to let go of everything, because I was in so much anxiety and fear and worry all the time. And I didn't like feeling that way. So yeah, he will show us what's in our mind actually, and we can look at it with him and shine it away. But it's always some kind of need or some kind of something that we're attached to in some way. And that's where, the non-attachment is really essential, like Kate was saying. So I just wanted to share that. Thanks, Kate.
So maybe just to do a bit of writing now, as we've been talking in the last hour, maybe write some notes about anything that's coming up for you at this time, where we've already written about what we're worried about and what might and what the ego has suggested. And then also you've written about what it said will go wrong with that suggestion, so like go and live with your mum. Oh yeah, but she has the TV on loud all day or something, so you won't be happy. So you got to look at it, suggests something and then it says it won't work, right? So, but maybe now just look at the generalized fear about some future thing and try to get attached to, try to get down to what the actual fear is. And yeah, anyway, just write whatever you feel is coming through, whatever fear it might be. It could just be something along the lines that I don't think the Holy Spirit will give me the guidance, or I feel other people have got a really good connection to the Holy Spirit that I don't. So I've got to plan out everything for myself, things like that. Yeah, so it's really writing to expose what's in our mind. Can sometimes when we do these little workshops or we dedicate some time to, we've put away an hour and a half to 2 hours today to really focus on something. And these are always really good. Like if you go to a workshop or a retreat or something, you kind of leave your, busy life to come to a space. So what I'd like you to do is, just for now, just write down anything that's coming into your mind, and it would be from the Holy Spirit. Just something that either it might be just becoming more aware of something that has is coming up for you, like the egoic stuff, these egoic beliefs, that because you're so busy, you haven't had a chance to really sit down and say, oh yeah, I can see how the ego's always saying, you need to leave your job, or you need to leave your partner, or you need to sell your house. Like, just give some time, a couple of minutes now, to just sitting quietly and just becoming more aware of any of the worry thoughts and the concerns. These are all the ego concerns. Just because we've got this time and we've dedicated this time to just sitting in front of a computer with pen and paper, it should be useful. And this is just between you and the Holy Spirit. And we can't really face something and with him so he can shine it away unless we kind of know what it is or get it, even if we just get a sense of it. And I know for myself that it seemed that I really started off with the big problems, but as I went along, there seemed to be some really subtle ones that are very, very easily to overlook. You know, it might be that you're worried about a sore on your big toe or something, and it can seem, you know, that's not too much to worry about. But we want to eventually notice these these worry thoughts, and they are egoic. They're the ego. So that we want to bring all these thoughts to him. But we might be concerned about, you know, what we're eating and what medicine we're on, all these little thoughts. And so just kind of make a list of anything that's going on for you now. Don't you have any fear or worry about? And you just don't have a solution to it because you're asking the ego. Anything that's unresolved, anything to do with your body, someone else's body, any fear or worry thoughts. Okay, so when you finish writing, if you can look at the screen, I'll know that you've finished. Actually, Shannon, just talking about the meditation, I'm just looking at in lesson 47, paragraph 4, sentence 3, close your eyes and close your eyes and begin as usual by repeating the idea. And maybe we can do, God is the strength in which I trust. There is nothing to fear. Yeah? Do you feel all right to do that? Okay. And then number 5 is now try to slip past all concerns. That feels like a really nice meditation. Okay.
that same guidance just came through to me as well. So I wasn't going to get into it. I was sitting here laughing.
Okay. So that's not unusual for us to get exactly the same guidance around the meditation because we didn't have one for today. We just thought we'll just wait for the guidance. There it is. Okay, so in relation to anything you've written down today, any concerns, any worries, we'll just do a meditation now, and Shannon will lead it, and we'll use the paragraphs 4 and 5 in lesson 47. Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you, Kate. Okay, everyone. Just take a really deep breath in through your nose. Close your eyes. Exhale out of your mouth and just feel yourself relax. See if any of the surface level things that you just wrote down can just go with your exhale. Take another deep breath in through your nose. And exhale out of your mouth. And just feel everything leaving. And now repeat these words in your mind. God is the strength in which I trust. And just repeat that a couple times to yourself now. God is the strength in which I trust. Now allow one of those worries or fears to just come into your mind and just be aware of it for a moment. And now dismiss it by saying, God is the strength in which I trust. Just watch it float up into the air in a way no longer a concern for you. And now let another one just come up into your awareness. And just let a bubble surround it. Just float it up into the air and say, God is the strength in which I trust. Just feel yourself letting go and trusting Him. Now try to slip past all concerns related to your own sense of inadequacy. It is obvious that any situation that causes you concern is associated with feelings of inadequacy. For otherwise, you would believe that you could deal with the situation successfully. It is not by trusting yourself that you will gain confidence, but the strength of God in you is successful in all things. So just take the next 5 minutes or so to really feel into the strength of God and just let it fill your heart. Let your heart be filled with God's strength and God's love. Now repeat these words after me in your mind. There is a place in me where there is perfect peace. There is a place in me where nothing is impossible. There is a place in me where the strength of God abides. And now just bring a feeling of gratitude into your heart and let it expand, saying, "Thank you, Father, for your strength. And for your love, and for your peace." See if you can let the gratitude expand outside of yourself to share with everyone and everything. And then when you're ready, open your eyes and extend it to each other.
So I'm just going to read this one paragraph. God is your safety in every circumstance. His voice speaks for him in all situations and in every aspect of all situations, telling you exactly what to do to call upon his strength and his protection. There are no exceptions because God has no exceptions. And the voice which speaks for him thinks as he does. So next week, we'll continue on with some further help with this particular aspect of worry and concern. But if you can, when you're feeling anxious, depressed, or just feeling out of sorts, just tell yourself, I'm trusting in my own strength. In other words, trusting in trusting in the ego to guide me. And I need to trust in God. I need to trust in the strength of God. I need to trust his voice. And that's a very simple thing to remember. So for this week, as we are dedicating ourselves to watching, to having a theme and applying it each day, I might write some more things up in the Zoom to Miracles. Thank you, Susan, for saying it was helpful. So really it's just about becoming more aware of what thoughts you're listening to and why you don't want to listen to them, because they don't lead you to peace and happiness. And so we really need to trust in the voice that loves us and knows. So let's have the focus for that, trusting more, noticing more, being more aware, and doing forgiveness more this week. Thanks, Shannon. That was a beautiful meditation and so lovely to really feel into that beautiful God is the strength in which I trust. So lovely. Just beautiful to really give that time over to really repeat it and really feel that strength that comes through. Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate. So the book was 5 Steps to Hearing God's Voice by David Paul Doyle that I bought and went through. I think it's still available if you want it. So write in your journal your dedication to the theme this week, the ideas for this week. And this is the only thing that works. It's the only thing that works, right? Nothing, just you have to see that joining with the ego thoughts don't work. You can only do that for yourself by really writing about it and noticing how the ego's ideas and suggestions don't lead to any happiness or peace. And so God is the strength in which I trust, his voice. I ask you, this is the issue as I see it. I bring it to you. Show it to me differently. Help me with this problem. So we trust. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining and being dedicated and committed to going deeper, to being more aware, becoming more and more aware of these ego thoughts so we can turn and face them, not run away from them, but turn and face them with these beautiful healing themes and healing lessons. I just love this lesson. So let's not trust in our own strength. Nothing works out when we trust in our own strength. We have to trust in the strength of God. Thank you, everyone. I love you. I bless you. I honor you. And I hope you feel amazing now. And validate that as well in your journal, how you felt when you did this. So you can know when those fear thoughts rise up, there is a solution. All right. Thank you so much. See you next week for another workshop. Love you guys. Thanks, Shannon. It's lovely. Bye.